The crystal pagoda of transcendence within Mu Chen's body trembled slightly. Although his expression remained unchanged, a hint of shock flickered deep in his eyes that he never expected that the Flame Emperor's strength would be so formidable. With just a glance, he had detected the crystal pagoda of transcendence inside him. Can even the Heavenly Supreme sense it? Mu Chen frowned. If that were the case, it would clearly be bad news for him. After all, if this attracted the attention of the Fudo ancient clan, it would likely cause significant trouble. However, Mu Chen quickly dismissed this idea. He could sense that even the Western Battle Emperor had not detected the crystal pagoda of transcendence within him. This meant that not all Heavenly Supremes possessed such a terrifying ability, unless they were on the level of the Flame Emperor, but individuals like the Flame Emperor were rare even in the Great Thousand Worlds, so meeting someone like him was not something that could happen by chance. With that thought, Mu Chen finally relaxed. The Flame Emperor had shown him considerable favor. Even if he had noticed the crystal pagoda of transcendence, he likely wouldn't deliberately expose it. While Mu Chen was lost in thought, the Flame Emperor withdrew his gaze, though a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. That pagoda, it seems to be a unique item of the Fudo ancient clan. The Flame Emperor mused, then chuckled lightly, speaking to himself. It looks like this Mu Chen has quite an interesting background. To cultivate such a pagoda, one would need the bloodline of the Fudo ancient clan. Yet, there had been no sign of anyone from the Fudo ancient clan around Mu Chen, and it seemed he was intentionally concealing the pagoda he had cultivated. Such actions were clearly intriguing. The Flame Emperor smiled, and then decided to set the matter aside. Since Mu Chen was deliberately hiding it, there must be a reason for it. In that case, he naturally wouldn't be rude enough to expose it. However, that pagoda seems somewhat unusual. The Flame Emperor had interacted with members of the Fudo ancient clan before, but he had rarely seen a pagoda exuding such a sacred aura. Clearly, the quality of this pagoda was extraordinary. In just a month, this kind of progress is indeed impressive. The Flame Emperor smiled faintly, feeling somewhat gratified. It seemed his judgment was not wrong. The Western Battle Emperor, standing nearby, turned to the Flame Emperor with a smile. What do you think of our Western Heaven continent? The Flame Emperor glanced at the White Jade Plaza. The plaza was crowded with heroes, and the lineup was indeed quite impressive. He nodded and said, "The Western Heaven continent is home to hidden dragons and crouching tigers." The Western Battle Emperor chuckled, then sighed. But compared to the boundless fire domain, it still falls short by a long shot. His words were sincere. Though he was proud, he wasn't arrogant. The fame and power of the boundless fire domain in the Great Thousand Worlds far surpassed that of the Western Heaven Battle Hall. "You flatter me," the Flame Emperor said with a smile, offering a gentle reassurance. The Western Battle Emperor didn't press the matter further. He scanned the plaza, then subtly glanced at Mu Chen and Luo Li, before waving his hand. Whoosh! 4 streaks of light flew toward him and landed before the Western Battle Emperor. The 4 figures then knelt down, respectfully greeting, "Greetings, Hall Master." As soon as these 4 figures appeared, they immediately drew the attention of many in the plaza. If most people had previously been wary of Willow Star, Su Mu, and Chu Min, now, fear flashed in the eyes of many. These 4 figures were none other than the 4 great saints of the Western Heaven Battle Hall. They were also the top contenders for the title of Continental Heir. Are those the other 3 saints? Mu Chen's expression grew slightly serious as he gazed at the 3 figures. He could sense a faint but distinct aura of danger from them. "You must be cautious of these 3, Luo Li whispered. Her eyes filled with concern. Mu Chen nodded. These 3 had become the favorites to win for a reason. That much was clear from the fearful gazes of the surrounding competitors. Mu Chen stared at the 3 holy sons. On the plaza, Lu Xingchen, Su Mu, and Chu Min also showed a hint of caution in their eyes. They exchanged a glance, and a fleeting, inexplicable expression passed through their eyes before they returned to calm. "Hee, what does the Flame Emperor think of these 4? The Western Battle Emperor glanced at the 4 holy sons before smiling and asking. The Flame Emperor's gaze swept over the 4, finally lingering on the unremarkable spirit warrior, before saying, "The Battle Emperor has trained them well. These 4 are exceptional." The Western Battle Emperor casually pointed at Mu Chen standing in the plaza and asked. Then, Flame Emperor, do you think they have a chance of winning the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield? Upon hearing this, the Flame Emperor couldn't help but chuckled. He understood the Battle Emperor's intentions clearly and, in an unconcerned tone, replied, "The chances are certainly not small, but nothing is absolute. Sometimes, unexpected surprises do happen." The Western Battle Emperor's eyes flashed. Of course, he could hear the underlying meaning, and it was clear that the Flame Emperor still held some inexplicable confidence in Mu Chen. He immediately turned to the three holy sons, Spirit Warrior, Spirit Sword Son, and Spirit Dragon Son, and said with a grin, "Since the Flame Emperor thinks there might be some surprises, you all better stay alert. Don't end up flipping over in the gutter." Yes, the three holy sons, Spirit Warrior, Spirit Sword Son, and Spirit Dragon Son, exchanged a fleeting glance. Naturally, they didn't take the Flame Emperor's words seriously, but in front of such figures, they dared not show any disrespect. They responded respectfully. The Western Battle Emperor nodded and then looked toward the White Jade Plaza, his voice calm as it resonated. "The time is almost here. Since that's the case, let's prepare to open the battlefield." As soon as his words fell, the Western Battle Emperor suddenly waved his sleeve, and instantly, countless points of light shot out, landing in front of everyone on the plaza. A point of light fell in front of Mu Chen, transforming into a battle seal inscribed with the image of a golden spear and iron horse. Spiritual light surged from the seal, and a unique fluctuation seemed to emanate from it. Each contender will possess a battle seal. This is your token that if your battle seal is taken, you will be disqualified and immediately teleported out of the battlefield. And in the end, the person with the most battle seals will become the heir of the Western Heaven continent. The Western Battle Emperor gazed at the many powerful figures with interest and added, "Furthermore, to inspire everyone's fighting spirit, I will grant you some benefits. Once you enter the battlefield, as long as you infuse spiritual energy into the battle seal, you will be able to access the Battle Emperor's treasury, where numerous sacred artifacts, divine arts, and spirit arrays are available for you to exchange." Upon hearing this, countless powerhouses' eyes gleamed with fiery greed. The Battle Emperor's treasury? Without a doubt, it must be filled with treasures. If they could get even one item, this battle would be worth it. And to exchange for treasures, the only currency in the battlefield will be the battle seal. So, if anyone has such intentions, go ahead and seize other battle seals as much as you can. Additionally, to help you lock onto your targets, if someone possesses more than 2 battle seals, their location will appear on the battle seal. At this point, a playful smile appeared on the Western Battle Emperor's face. With such an incentive, the competition for the heir of the Western Heaven continent would surely be unexpectedly fierce and exciting. On the plaza, many powerhouses were completely stirred up by the Battle Emperor's words. Each one of them was filled with excitement and greed, their eyes now fixed menacingly on each other. This Western Battle Emperor sure knows how to stir up chaos. Mu Chen sighed helplessly. The Heavenly Supreme really was above it all, casually issuing a command that could make the top powerhouses scramble to compete. However, the Battle Emperor's treasury, it was indeed tempting. After casting such a large bait, the Western Battle Emperor didn't pay any more attention to the frenzied atmosphere. He waved his hand, and suddenly, the sky above began to twist violently, transforming into 3 massive spatial vortices. Perfect Earth Supreme, enter the battlefield. As soon as the Western Battle Emperor's voice fell, 8 vast streams of spiritual energy erupted from the front of the plaza. 8 figures shot into the sky and immediately dove into one of the spatial vortices. The Perfect Earth Supreme battlefield is only contested by 8 people. As they watched this scene, the crowd couldn't help but look on with envy. The Upper Earth Supreme battlefield likely had more than 200 participants, and the Lower Earth Supreme battlefield even more than that. But everyone knew there was no other choice, that a Perfect Earth Supreme was a rarity, even within the vast territory of the Western Heaven Battle Hall, where the Western Battle Emperor presided. Upper Earth Supreme. As soon as the battlefield for the Perfect Earth Supremes opened, hundreds of figures shot forward, disappearing one after another into the spatial vortex. "I'll go on ahead," Mu Chen said with a slight smile to Luo Li. "Good luck, and be careful." Luo Li nodded gently, flashing him a radiant smile. she wasted no time. With a swift motion, her figure transformed into a streak of light, following the main group and diving straight into the vortex as the Upper Earth Supremes entered the battlefield. The largest group, comprising the Lower Earth Supremes, including Luo Li, also sprang into action. Under countless burning gazes, they surged forward in a mighty wave, disappearing into the final spatial vortex. The moment the last person vanished, a deafening uproar erupted beyond the plaza, as an eager crowd watched with anticipation. Among them stood Luo, Heavenly God. Gazing at the fading spatial vortexes, he took a deep breath. The anticipation in his aged expression was unmistakable. Thus, the battle for the title of Continental Heir of the Western Heaven Continent had truly begun. As his body passed through the spatial vortex, Mu Chen's eyes snapped open once more. The blood-red sunset stained the sky, casting a dim, desolate hue over the vast battlefield. The entire space exuded an eerie silence, as if abandoned by time itself. So, this is the battlefield for the Continental Heir contest. Mu Chen murmured as he surveyed the boundless, dusk-colored expanse. That it was clear that this battlefield was an independent pocket dimension, carved out by the Western Battle Emperor himself. Now, all the Upper Earth Supremes had entered it, setting the stage for a brutal, merciless conflict. Every participant was inevitably entangled in this battle, no exceptions. Yet, Mu Chen's expression remained calm. Instead of rushing off immediately, he stood still for a moment in contemplation. Then, his palm closed, and a peculiar battle seal materialized in his grasp, radiating a unique energy. This seal was crucial for anyone competing for the title of Continental Heir. Losing it meant immediate disqualification and forced expulsion from this space. More importantly, the battle seal was linked to the War Emperor's treasury, a treasure vault belonging to a Heavenly Supreme. Any item within it was of unimaginable value. Mu Chen channeled a thread of spiritual energy into the battle seal. Instantly, a spiritual light screen emerged, revealing an array of dazzling treasures. Though they were mere projections, they still emanated a powerful, enticing aura. Great divine ability, star summoning divine art. 10 battle seals. 100 dragon staff, low-tier sacred artifact. For battle seals. Myriad mountain spirit steel, mid-tier sacred artifact. 13 battle seals. Spirit sage great law body, ranked 79th on the supreme body ranking. 9 battle seals. Mu Chen's throat moved as he swallowed unconsciously. His eyes were filled with pure, unrestrained greed. The War Emperor's treasury truly lived up to its name. Each of these items would be priceless in the great thousand worlds. Yet now, the Western Battle Emperor had opened his vault, allowing competitors to exchange their battle seals for treasures at will. Such generosity was a testament to the staggering wealth and power he commanded. Myriad Mountain Spirit Steel? That's a mid-tier sacred artifact. Mu Chen stared at the treasure, practically drooling. Even Mandala's Star Suppression Tower was only of mid-tier ranked AS for his own collection. He had just 2 sacred artifacts, the Wind God Fan and the Ocean Overturning Seal, both low-tier. But the price? 13 battle seals? That means I'd have to snatch them from 13 Upper Earth Supremes. Despite his burning desire, Mu Chen sighed helplessly. Such a feat was far from easy. Everything's too expensive. He browsed the vault for a long while before sighing again. So many treasures tempted him, but the price for each was simply too steep. Under normal circumstances, even a capable Upper Earth Supreme with some luck might only manage to collect 6 or 7 battle seals at most. Even if they exchanged all of them, it still wouldn't be enough for a single mid-tier sacred artifact. If nothing unexpected happens, the moment someone spends such a price to exchange for a treasure, they are very likely to lose the opportunity to compete for the sole qualification. After all, that single spot as the Continental Heir will belong to the one with the most battle seals. Because of this, any powerhouse with ambitions of claiming the sole spot would be unwilling to trade their hard-earned battle seals for treasures from the War Emperor's treasury, no matter how tempting they might be. In that sense, the War Emperor's treasury seems more like a consolation prize for those who stand no chance of contending for the sole spot. Are there any treasures that are actually worth their price? Mu Chen curled his lips, his fingers swiping across the spiritual light screen. Seeing nothing appealing, he shook his head in disappointment and was about to close it. Just as he was about to shut the interface, something in the corner of his vision caught his attention. His finger hesitated slightly, and his narrowed eyes locked onto a specific entry. 3 Spirits Battle Formation. What Chen had discovered was an exceptionally rare battle formation, and what was even more astonishing was that it required only 3 participants. This was highly unusual. Battle formations were the domain of battle formation masters, and the armies they commanded typically numbered in the thousands. Stronger ones even in the millions or tens of millions. A formation designed for just 3 people. What kind of joke was this? Chen's eyes flickered with curiosity. With a light tap, a flood of information surged into his mind. As he absorbed the details, a look of intrigue crossed his face. It turned out that the 3 Spirits Battle Formation was created in ancient times by a renowned battle formation master from the Great Thousand Worlds. This master was capable of condensing 5 million battle runes, a level of skill that made him stand out even among Upper Earth Supremes. Yet, despite such mastery, he was considered an anomaly. Unlike other battle formation masters, he commanded no grand army. His entire troop consisted of just 2 individuals. To be precise, they were his twin brothers. Both of these twins possessed the strength of Upper Earth Supremes. Under normal circumstances, no battle formation master, not even one capable of condensing 1,000,000 battle runes, would dare to use 2 Upper Earth Supremes as the source of their battle intent. Their overwhelming power and self-awareness would make them impossible to control. Any attempt to harness their battle intent would likely result in catastrophic backlash. But this master was an exception. Because they were twins, their minds were perfectly synchronized, allowing them to fully harmonize with each other's battle intent despite its immense strength. As a result, under their brother's command, these 2 warriors wielded the might of an army numbering in the millions, perhaps even tens of millions. Through this uncanny synergy and the profound mysteries of the 3 Spirits Battle Formation, this battle formation master achieved the impossible. He challenged and slew a perfect Earth Supreme. Normally, even 3 Upper Earth Supremes working together would stand no chance against a perfect Earth Supreme. Yet, this master, by relying on the bond of his twin brothers and the power of the 3 Spirits Battle Formation, successfully pulled off this feat. This astonishing victory sent shockwaves through the world. I never imagined something like this could exist. As the information settled in his mind, Chen couldn't help but marvel. This was the first time he had ever heard of a battle formation master who could use Upper Earth Supremes as his personal soldiers. But such a feat could not be replicated by just anyone. The key lay in the twins' unique connection, which allowed them to synchronize their battle intent without suffering backlash. Of course, their ability to defeat a perfect Earth Supreme was not solely due to their bond. The 3 Spirits Battle Formation played a crucial role, weaving them into a single, unified force and amplifying their strength to an incredible degree. Even so, just because others couldn't replicate this, didn't mean Chen couldn't. His gaze burned as he stared at the 3 Spirits Battle Formation, the fire in his deep black eyes growing ever fiercer. He might not have twin brothers, but he had 1 Qi transforms, 3 purities. That technique allowed him to create incarnations from his own being. Incarnations that shared a connection even deeper than that of twins. From a certain perspective, the 3 Spirits Battle Formation was an even better fit for him than it had been for its original creator and his brothers. This battle formation is practically tailor-made for him. Chen licked his lips, and for the first time, a greedy glint appeared in his eyes. Although this was still just a guess for now, no matter what, this 3 Spirits Battle Formation was something he had to get his hands on. With the assistance of this formation, the combat power of his 1 Qi transforms 3 purities would surge dramatically. Thus, after looking at the 3 Spirits Battle Formation, Chen saw the price tag for the formation. 3 Spirits Battle Formation for battle seals. Looking at the exchange price, Chen couldn't help but relax slightly. Although this formation was extraordinary, its requirements were too strict. In this world, there couldn't be many people who were both formation masters and had twin brothers. Therefore, the value of this 3 Spirits Battle Formation in the War Emperor's treasure vault was equivalent to that of a low-tier sacred artifact. However, to Chen, Its value might even surpass that of a great divine ability. Chen lightly tapped the light screen with his fingers, then clenched his palm tightly, directly taking the battle seals into his possession. He looked up at the dim and yellow sky, a faint smile appearing on his face. That it seems he must quickly obtain the 4 battle seals. Otherwise, if someone else takes the 3 spirits battle formation, it would be a huge loss for him. Since that's the case, Chen slowly clenched his long fingers together, smiling slightly as he muttered to himself. Next, it's time to begin my hunt. With those words, he chuckled lightly, no longer hesitating. With a wave of his sleeve, his figure shot up like a streak of light into the sky, heading straight for the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield. Now his first goal was to do whatever it took to obtain the 4 battle seals. Whoosh! In the endless dim yellow sky, a crimson light flashed by. Within the streak of light was a man dressed in a fire-red robe, his body surrounded by blazing crimson flames. This was a sign of the extremely vigorous flame's spiritual energy he cultivated, causing his spiritual energy to manifest externally like a fiery garment, protecting him within. This moment, the flame robe man was scanning the vast land with sharp eyes, like a hunting eagle. He was searching for prey, and if his opponent was even slightly weaker, they would immediately be entangled by him, and their battle seal would be taken. However, in this battlefield, the roles of hunter and prey could change at any moment. Thus, the flame robe man was extremely cautious that as soon as he sensed that his opponent was too dangerous, he would immediately distance himself. With his unique flame evasion art, he was confident in his speed, and few would be able to catch him at the same level. Moreover, if his opponent really pursued him relentlessly, he could use his speed advantage to drag the opponent into a war of attrition, which would put him in a strong position. Previously, he had already successfully obtained a battle seal using this tactic, where he alternated between the enemy chasing him and him chasing the enemy. The flame robe man now held 2 battle seals, which slowly rotated in his palm. That he smiled to himself, knowing that in a battlefield filled with strong competitors, with his strength, he probably wasn't qualified to fight for that one coveted spot. So, his goal wasn't the single spot for the continental air. He simply planned to grab as many battle seals as possible and then exchange them for a treasure he desired from the War Emperor's vault. Once the treasure was in his hands, he could withdraw contentedly. For the spot, let the others fight to the death for it. As the flame robe man pondered, his expression shifted. His eyes narrowed as he gazed at a distant mountain range, where he sensed a faint spiritual energy fluctuation slowly retreating. The owner of that spiritual fluctuation was clearly doing their best to hide their energy, but they ultimately couldn't escape the flame robe man's detection. Firelight gathered in his eyes. In the next moment, his gaze pierced through the distance, breaking through layer upon layer of concealment, and he saw a figure deep within the mountains. Lower Earth Supreme. When the flame robe man saw the young figure, he froze for a moment. Then, he came back to his senses, and a playful look appeared in his eyes. Is that Chen? In this Upper Earth Supreme battlefield, the only Lower Earth Supreme here is probably that Chen. When the flame robe man discovered Chen's movements, it seemed like Chen also sensed something. As he suddenly shot forward and retreated rapidly, his figure turned into a streak of light, continuously shifting through the mountains in an attempt to escape. A battle seal delivered right to my door. Do you think you can get away? The flame robe man grinned when he saw this, then stomped his foot. Fiery red flames erupted from his body, and in an instant, his figure disappeared, reappearing in midair above the mountains. He slammed down with his palm. The flame robe man was clearly cautious. He had heard of the confrontation between Chen and Bear Tyrant in the Western Heaven War City. Knowing that engaging directly with Chen through spiritual energy was dangerous, he chose not to get too close, but instead unleashed a barrage of long-range spiritual energy attacks. Boom! A massive spiritual energy palm engulfed in raging flames descended, and the intense heat immediately turned vast forests in the mountains into a sea of fire. Bang! The giant palm slammed down, but Chen managed to narrowly escape its range at the last moment. However, the violent, scorching shockwave still knocked him back, leaving him in a slightly disheveled state. But Chen didn't have time to worry about that. Without looking back, he continued running at full speed. Trying to run? The flame-robed man sneered, but didn't immediately chase after him. His sharp gaze swept across the mountains, and after detecting no other hidden spiritual energy fluctuations, he erupted into fire once more and pursued Mu Chen and Ikati this moment. Other Upper Earth Supremes in the battlefield weren't to be underestimated that it would be difficult to gain any advantage over them, but compared to them, taking down a Lower Earth Supreme like Mu Chen seemed much easier. Even so, caution was still necessary to avoid a mishap later. With these thoughts, the flame-robed man followed Mu Chen from a safe distance, occasionally bombarding him with destructive spiritual energy attacks from above, constantly wearing him down. As a result, one mountain after another was set ablaze, and in the midst of the firestorms, a figure continued to flee. At the White Jade Plaza in Western Heaven War City, around the plaza, countless figures gathered, their gazes fixed on the sky above the plaza, where several light screens appeared. Within the light screens were various scenes, each depicting intense battles that could easily stir one's blood. Clearly, these light screens projected the scenes from the 3 ongoing battlefields. Whenever a battle was about to break out, it would immediately be projected for everyone to observe. That spirit warrior is truly incredible. In just this short amount of time, he has already defeated 3 Upper Earth Supremes. Spirit Sword Sun and Spirit Dragon also aren't far behind. Each of them has defeated 2 Upper Earth Supremes. TSK. In the Lower Earth Supreme battlefield, Luo Li is simply unstoppable. Ling Fizi is also impressive with her performance. As the crowd observed the fierce battles, loud exclamations of amazement echoed through the plaza. Luo Heavenly God stood among the crowd, looking up at the light screens. When he saw Luo Li rampaging through the Lower Earth Supreme battlefield, he couldn't help but show a satisfied smile. Although Luo Li had only recently broken through to Lower Earth Supreme, due to the Luo Shun inheritance, her foundation was unexpectedly solid. Some of her techniques were so powerful that even Luo Heavenly God felt unfamiliar with them. Clearly, these were abilities she had acquired from the Luo Shin inheritance. Luo Li hasn't even used the Luo Shin divine body, yet if she does, there should be very few in the Lower Earth Supreme battlefield who can pose a threat to her. Luo Heavenly God gently stroked his beard, then glanced at the many light screens, his brow furrowing slightly. During this time, he had not seen Mu Chen's figure. This meant Mu Chen had not engaged in battle. Compared to Spirit Warrior and the others, his efficiency was clearly much lower. However, Luo Heavenly God also understood that with Mu Chen's Lower Earth Supreme strength, facing many Upper Earth Supremes would be an extremely difficult task. Therefore, he could only silently pray that Mu Chen would manage to get through it as smoothly as possible. Isn't that the guy called Mu Chen? Why does he look so disheveled and on the run? Seems like a Lower Earth Supreme is still too much of a stretch on the Upper Earth Supreme battlefield. Letting this kid run rampant, thinking no one in Western Heaven Continent can stop him. Humph. Now he'll know the true power of Upper Earth Supremes when he actually faces them. Suddenly, a sound reached his ears, causing Luo Tian God to narrow his eyes. That he quickly shifted his gaze towards a glowing screen and saw that within it, crimson flames were sweeping across, burning entire mountain ranges. At the forefront of this sea of fire, a figure was fleeing in a rather disheveled manner. It was none other than Mu Chen. At that moment, more and more people around began to notice the scene, erupting into laughter. They had heard of Mu Chen's extraordinary abilities before, but now, as he actually engaged in combat, it seemed he was revealing a few weaknesses. However, upon seeing this, Luo Tian God's eyes slightly narrowed, and surprisingly, he didn't show any sign of concern. He knew Mu Chen well enough to understand that with his strength, he would not be so helplessly pursued by an Upper Earth Supreme. So, there was only one reason for this: feigning weakness to lure the enemy into a trap. Boom. A massive fiery palm roared down, reducing another mountain range to ashes. The flame-robed man saw Mu Chen, though looking disheveled below, was still bouncing around alive. His brows finally furrowed, a hint of impatience emerging. We can't drag this out any longer. If this continues, others might arrive, and things could change, the flame-robed man said coldly. His eyes darkened as he stared at Mu Chen, who had once again retreated into a mountain range. Without hesitation, he waved his sleeve, and a fiery cloud shot out. As the cloud twisted, it formed into a fire cloud shield, which then descended, covering the entire mountain range where Mu Chen had hidden. After sealing the mountain range, the flame-robed man transformed into a streak of light and appeared above the peak of a mountain. Just moments later, he looked coldly at the young figure standing there. "Why aren't you running anymore?" the flame-robed man sneered, his eyes full of coldness. Yet, in the face of his mockery, Mu Chen simply stretched lazily and looked up with a smile, saying, "You're really too cautious. You made me take such a long detour just to lower your guard." Upon hearing this, the flame-robed man's pupils constricted. Without hesitation, he summoned flames beneath his feet, intending to use the flame evasion art to escape. Regardless of whether Mu Chen's words were true or not, his cautious nature made him choose safety. If Mu Chen had tricked him, he could always catch up later. Smack. However, in response to the flame-robed man's quick reaction, Mu Chen merely smiled faintly. He extended his long fingers and snapped his fingers. Boom. As soon as the snap sounded, the mountain range suddenly trembled. Countless pillars of spiritual energy shot up into the sky, forming a gigantic spirit array that instantly covered the entire area. The spirit array took shape, and 9 giant spiritual energy dragons coiled in the air, glaring fiercely and locking onto the flame-robed man. Mu Chen looked at the flame-robed man, whose face had turned an ugly shade, and smiled faintly. 9 dragons slaying Immortal array, complete form. Please, enjoy. 9 enormous spiritual energy dragons coiled in the sky. The terrifying waves of spiritual energy surged out from them like roaring tides, distorting the very space itself. Among these 9 dragons, the flame-robed man's expression grew even darker as he looked at Mu Chen, who was smiling from the peak of the mountain. He finally realized that he had fallen into Mu Chen's trap. Mu Chen's earlier desperate flight had been completely staged. "You crafty little bastard," the flame-robed man cursed darkly. Mu Chen smiled again, and, uninterested in saying more, said, "Hand over the battle seal. Dream on. Do you think you can defeat me, Fire Cloud King, with just a spirit array?" The flame-robed man scoffed. Though the spirit array before him was impressive, Mu Chen was still just in Lower Earth Supreme. Worst case, he could drag it out into a prolonged battle, and even if Mu Chen wanted something, it wouldn't be that easy to achieve. Boom. At the thought of this, a terrifying crimson spiritual energy erupted from the Fire Cloud King's body, dyeing the sky red. The temperature in the air soared rapidly. Seeing this, Mu Chen smiled faintly. If his 9 dragons slaying Immortal array were still only able to form 7 dragons, it would be impossible to threaten an Upper Earth Supreme. But now, the 9 dragons slaying Immortal array had reached its complete form. Mu Chen had attempted multiple times to successfully deploy the complete 9 dragons slaying Immortal array. In the end, he had to rely on the Crystal Pagoda of Transcendence to convert and amplify the spiritual energy within his body before finally succeeding. The 9 dragons slaying Immortal array was already a mid-tier Grandmaster Spirit array. Once fully deployed, it was absolutely capable of rivaling an Upper Earth Supreme. Moreover, the current version in Mu Chen's hands had undergone slight modifications. When the time came, it was bound to produce extraordinary effects. Roar! With this thought, Mu Chen lightly waved his sleeve, activating the massive spirit array. In an instant, 9 enormous dragons of spiritual energy roared towards the sky, their jaws opened wide, unleashing 9 torrents of dragon breath that swept forward like a raging flood, surging toward Fire Cloud King. Wherever the dragon breath passed, space shattered into fragments, displaying a terrifyingly domineering destructive force. Despite his harsh words earlier, Fire Cloud King dared not underestimate this array. With a flick of his palm, the crimson fire clouds that had previously enshrouded the mountain range surged toward him, rapidly forming the fire cloud shield around his body. The shield blazed intensely, distorting space from its searing heat. Boom! Boom! The dragon breath slammed into the fire cloud shield, sending sparks flying and waves of energy rippling outward. The shield trembled violently, on the verge of collapse. Is this all you've got? You think this can break my fire cloud barrier? Fire Cloud King sneered as he saw the dragon breath blocked. Flames gathered beneath his feet, his eyes flickering. He was preparing to use the flame evasion art to escape the spirit arrayed at this moment. He had already abandoned any thoughts of seizing Mu Chen. With this array, Mu Chen had secured an unassailable position. Prolonging the battle would be pointless. A mere low-tier sacred artifact for defense. Mu Chen glanced at the fire cloud shield with mild surprise. Defensive sacred artifacts were not particularly offensive, but they provided excellent protection. Still, my 9 Dragons Slaying Immortal array is a peak mid-tier Grandmaster Spirit array that a low-tier sacred artifact alone won't save you. Mu Chen chuckled softly, forming a hand seal. 9 Dragons Slaying Immortal array. 9 dragons converge. Immortal devouring dragon. As Mu Chen's hand seals changed, the array trembled. The 9 colossal dragons unleashed boundless light before merging into one. Spiritual light surged, and the massive dragons vanished in the blink of an eye. Moments later, a small multicolored dragon, only a few meters long, appeared within the array. Its shimmering body resembled a living gemstone, radiating an almost mesmerizing beauty. Yet, in Fire Cloud King's eyes, this beauty was terrifying. He could feel it. Inside that tiny dragon resided an overwhelming, nightmarish power. Even as an Upper Earth Supreme, he felt an uncontrollable sense of dread. This Mu Chen, he's only a Lower Earth Supreme, yet his mastery of spirit arrays has reached the level of a mid-tier Grandmaster. What a monster! Fire Cloud King's expression darkened, deep fear flashing through his eyes. I must leave immediately. This thought flashed through his mind as flames beneath his feet erupted. With the flame evasion art, he prepared to escape the array's range. Whoosh! But just as Fire Cloud King's flames surged, the small multicolored dragon vanished. No, it didn't vanish. It transformed into a streak of light, piercing through space at a speed faster than the eye could see. In less than a heartbeat, before Fire Cloud King's flames could fully engulf him, there was a sharp crack. His fire cloud shield split open. A streak of multicolored light flashed past. The next moment, the tiny dragon reappeared before him. Its jaws opened wide, sinking its fangs deep into his arm. Rip! With a sickening tear, Fire Cloud King's entire arm was ripped off, blood spraying into the air. Arg! A scream of agony erupted from Fire Cloud King. Yet, proving his ruthlessness, he ignored his severed limb, instantly changing his hand seal. Flames surged, enveloping his body. Whoosh! A moment later, his figure transformed into a blazing streak and vanished. When he reappeared, he was already tens of thousands of meters away, barely escaping the range of the 9 Dragons Slaying Immortal array. Escaping from the 9 Dragons Slaying Immortal array, Fire Cloud King gazed uneasily at the spirit array that covered the mountain peak in the distance. His gaze then shifted to his severed arm, and his teeth clenched in anger. Though such a physical injury wouldn't be considered a serious blow to an Upper Earth Supreme, being forced into such a pathetic state by a Lower Earth Supreme was truly a disgrace. To think he managed to escape. He's not that simple after all. Inside the array, Mu Chen sighed upon seeing Fire Cloud King escape the spirit arrayed as expected. Anyone who could reach the Upper Earth Supreme level was no easy opponent. With the Fire Evasion Divine Art, Fire Cloud King could likely move freely unless he encountered the most troublesome individuals. You brat, remember this. I'll never forget this broken arm. Fire Cloud King's face darkened as he shouted at Mu Chen. Boom! Just as his voice fell, Mu Chen suddenly shot out of the spirit array, charging directly toward Fire Cloud King. Huh! Fire Cloud King froze for a moment. He never expected Mu Chen to leave the spirit array on his own. After all, it was because of that very array that Mu Chen had been able to force him into such a miserable state. Fire Cloud King. Mu Chen, now outside the array, was nothing more than a Lower Earth Supreme. No, this kid is cunning like a fox. If he's so fearless, it must be a trap. But Fire Cloud King quickly recovered. His cautious nature, sharpened by previous setbacks, told him that something was off. He wasn't about to fall into Mu Chen's trap again. Clenching his teeth, he immediately retreated without giving Mu Chen any attention. Learn to be smart, huh? But you won't escape now. Seeing Fire Cloud King decisively retreat, Mu Chen raised an eyebrow. Then, he stretched out his hand and made a sharp grip, a strange smile appearing on his lips. Upon seeing Mu Chen's gesture, Fire Cloud King's heart skipped a beat. Without hesitation, he tried to activate the Fire Evasion Divine Art again. Seal. A low voice echoed from Mu Chen's mouth. The moment the voice fell, the place where Fire Cloud King's arm had been severed faintly glowed with a crystal light. Then, the flame rising from his body dissipated at an eerie speed. The sudden change left Fire Cloud King stunned, and then horror flashed across his face as he realized that some mysterious, crystal-like spiritual energy had entered his body. Wherever this energy passed, it temporarily sealed his own spiritual power. Damn it, when did his spiritual power infiltrate my body? Fire Cloud King gasped in disbelief. He had been on guard against Mu Chen's strange abilities, but he still fell victim. Soon, he realized that the source of this power came from the colorful little dragon. When his arm was severed, some of Mu Chen's crystal spiritual energy had entered his body. Figured it out. Just as Fire Cloud King understood, a laugh came from in front of him. Mu Chen had already appeared before him. Fire Cloud King's expression changed, and he immediately tried to purge the invading crystal energy from his body. He realized that although this crystal energy had sealing powers, it was only temporary. At most, it could seal his abilities for 10 breaths of time. Clap. But just as he desperately tried to expel it, a long hand gently landed on his shoulder. Immediately, an endless stream of crystal spiritual energy flooded into his body like a tidal wave that in an instant. Fire Cloud King's face turned pale. Mu Chen's other hand reached in front of him. Fire Cloud King struggled for a moment, but in the end, he could only dejectedly pull out 2 battle seals. With his spiritual power temporarily sealed, if Mu Chen truly wanted to strike, he could suffer irreparable damage. After receiving the 2 battle seals, Mu Chen nodded in satisfaction. He then turned and slapped Fire Cloud King's body, forcing a flame to emerge, which then transformed into a ball of red cloud and landed in Mu Chen's hand. Fire Cloud King watched in agony as his heart bled. Though it was just a low-level sacred artifact, its defensive capabilities had saved him from many dangers in the past. Through gritted teeth, Fire Cloud King glared at Mu Chen. "Are you satisfied now?" Mu Chen, unaffected by the venom in his gaze, simply looked at him with a half-smile and said, "Your Fire Evasion Divine Art is quite interesting. You devil." As Mu Chen's voice fell, a chillingly furious roar, filled with immeasurable rage, echoed through the sky.